Hello everyone, welcome back to the Oak Island Research channel for another video which I think is incredible in its content. It's called The Journey to Oak Island. And we're still gonna study the manuscripts of Guy La Rochefoucauld 7, the Grail of Rochefoucauld, a 4-volume manuscript. And this specific manuscript contains miniatures, as you have seen in my past videos. And those miniatures seem to have hidden messages and symbols in it that we're trying to decode together video after video. So welcome back to the channel. And this one blew my mind. I'm so impressed by what's hidden in there, and I'm mind blasted by the discovery of this video, which to me has got the same intensity as the first Rochefoucauld discoveries. So hang on with me, it's gonna be an awesome journey. A bit longer than usual because there's a lot of content. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea and let's go for this incredible journey. As usual, the fair use on YouTube because I'm going to use some material that I don't own. And we're going to start our journey by first a comment of one of the channel's subscriber, Captain Kman. And Captain says, I'll let you read. I love it because I couldn't say it better. Yes, those things exist in those paintings, and it's not the only place we can find hidden messages in other art support and media, whether texts that are coded, whether pictures and paintings especially. What a better place than a painting to hide some symbols or a story. So thank you, Captain, because that's exactly how I feel. And it seems I got the eye for those things. No, I'm not a Mason, in case you were wondering. I'm a regular Frenchman, not Mason. At least not yet. Let's see if they contact me someday to retrieve their own knowledge they've lost and forgot themselves. The second comment is from JPVG 1969. I don't think JP was mean when he wrote this to me. I think the common agreement, knowledge that no Atlantic crossing was possible before Columbus. We know it's wrong because the Vikings, they went all the way to Greenland and Newfoundland. We think, Michael and I think, the year to remember Odyssey and story about a Templar visit to America is correct, is genuine. At least I feel like this. But here I'm going to show you that in the manuscript, sorry JP, the whole journey is described of those people who went to Oak Island, reported in a 1315 manuscript. So you can't say it's a hoax, it's there. What could be said as a hoax is our understanding of the symbols. Okay, fair enough, it's interpretation. But the document is real, it's genuine, and let's see what's inside. First of all, we need to align, and I need to uplift you maybe if you're not familiar with sailing, because we're going to talk about sailing. That's the instruments you need to sail and to navigate and to plot your courses and use charts. The compass, I'm going to go left to right. The compass here was invented, we'll see in another slide, in 1190, or was used starting 1190. And that's very interesting because the timeline works for us. The manuscript was written in 1315, probably describing a journey or a story that happened during the lifetime of the person who ordered it, and I'll get back to this. So I would say that journey there that is described in the manuscript happened in the late 1250s, and between 1250 and let's say 1314, since it was ordered in 1315. So yeah, we are the end of the 1200s. And the magnetic compass was invented and used for navigation at the time. This instrument we're not going to use because this helps getting your position. You can get your position with compass and a time watch. If you know the speed of your boat and the bearing, you know where you are after so many hours. But if you don't and you lost track because of the night or whatever, with this you can, with the sun, you can have, I can't remember if it's your longitude or your latitude. I used it once in sailing school. They made us use it. Geez, once you get your data, the raw data with the sun and the angle and your position, it takes an hour of calculation, finding the right tables of where the sun should be at this position today, and it's a huge piece of work. It's not easy to get your position with a sextant, I can tell you. What you need, if you have them, is of course charts, but here we're talking about unknown waters or almost unknown waters. You need these are compass also. It's the same word, right? I think in English also. You'll notice there's no pen at the end like you would do in geometry. These are pointer compass. This is a distance, and by twisting your compass, you report the same distance over and over and over again. So for instance, if you know your ship does 5 miles an hour, you know that in 1 hour you do this. So by twisting that the compass itself, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, in 5 hours I'm here. That's how you plot your course and decide to change direction and things like that. That's and it's still used nowadays. I used that last year to plot courses. This is a very sweet instrument. It's called in French, I think it's international. It's a Cras ruler from the Admiral Cras, the French admiral. He had the idea of incorporating a compass rotating inside a ruler, so you can easily orientate your ruler and draw the line of your course that you want to achieve. So these are the instruments that have been there for ages, you know, since navigation started, and we still use them nowadays, which is incredible. Yes, we have GPSs on sailboats. Yes, we have all the electronic you can dream of, but you know what, at the end of the day, when you're at night on your table after dinner and you're plotting your course for the next day and checking the winds and checking the tides and the current, there's nothing better than a good old map and touching this and simulating with pen and paper. Really, that we all do that. Okay, so that was your crash course in sailing after a crash course in cabbage growing in a past video, and about birds, and then about, you know, that's incredible what we learned with Oak Island. Yeah, the magnetic compass. One of the 4 great inventions, the magnetic compass invented as a divination tool. I'd like to read more about this, but adopted for navigation by the Song dynasty in China, 11th century. First usage of compass recorded in Western and Islamic world, 1190. So it was very well in use 100 years later in 1290, definitely. Okay. So the idea is to understand how to get to Nova Scotia from Europe in the 1200s. That's the quiz I'm proposing for today. And you're sailing, okay? So winds are very important, especially you're not sailing on a modern boat, right? The progress in sailing, if you have a mast like this, is the shape of the sail itself is important. With a square sail, you can go with if the wind goes from the backside of your boat, or if the wind goes there and there, that's all. You can't go against the wind. You're stuck. And the Genoa sails, if you get your mast like this, then you get a triangle. I'm not going to be very good at this. And the triangle allows you to go against the wind is in some degree. That's incredible sailing. If your wind comes like this, you can go against the wind nowadays with modern sailboats up to 15 degrees up front. You're not going very fast. And of course, the further outside of the wind you go, the faster you go. But the outer of your target you're going. But that's the performance now. But that back in the days, you don't want to go against the wind, definitely. And if you're in Europe, in that region, and you want to go here, the straight line is definitely a complicated one. You just got face wind after face wind and face wind. You don't do that. Nobody does that. Only racing trimarans, for which the performance is when you go against the wind, strangely, but I don't want to go into hydrodynamics now. What we do, and what they did, what Columbus did, and what we still do today, sailing, leisure sailing, if you're going from Europe to America, that's your route. You would go south, 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 getting the side winds, okay? And here getting tracted by the Moroccan winds. And you'll end up in Azores Islands. That's your first rest. Here you would do logistics and food and rest and etc. You would then make a second, maybe I went too far, the Azores are around here. And your second stop is the Cape Verde Islands. And why Cape Verde? Because then you've got the Alizé wind. Those winds here are super smooth, super stable, and super comfortable, because when the wind goes that direction with your boat, that's the most comfortable position. And here you are for 12 days of crossing, sunshine, backwind, the sea is not rough, and it's a pleasure to go there. So that's how we nowadays still go to the Caribbeans. And if you want to go back to Florida, you would go that way. And we would never cross sailboat straight North Atlantic. That's not possible. That's not what we do. And that's exactly what Columbus did. And Columbus landed in Hispaniola. Probably this one. No, this is, this is Hispaniola, I think. Or maybe it's this one. That's Cuba. Anyways, he went straight and he claimed he discovered the New World. Between you and me, but it's just between you and me, I believe Christopher Columbus was not looking for America. He was looking for Oak Island. But shh, that's for another episode someday. Anyways, that's the wind situation. So route number 1 has always been this one. Okay. And have those people followed that route? Let's see. That was the wind, okay? But your boat is not on a road. The road the boat is on moves and it's got current. The ocean is organized into the Gulf Stream current, which, as you notice, on top of having faced wind to cross North Atlantic, you're facing current on top of that. And with a 1290 boat, you do not want to do that. And the weather is rough. Yes, storms and stuff. So again, as I said about the wind, the route number 1 is south. You got the Canary current pushing you, and then you got the, I can't remember what the NEC, northeast current from the Cancer tropic, which is here. I can't remember. Tropical Cancer. Anyways, the current and the wind, the Alizé, which are like this, pushes you, and it's a pleasure. You don't even have, if you have no wind, you're still going on. So that's the Gulf Stream, and you certainly don't want to face it this way. 2 reasons why we, even nowadays in Columbus, went to the Canaries, to the Cape Verde, which just got colonized by Portugal in 1315, 1400, I think. And he went straight then to Hispaniola. That's what he discovered. You can ask yourself, well, he must have done this. Because you can ask yourself, if he went south, how come he didn't find all those islands before finding Hispaniola? I don't know. But that's the admitted current and wind route. But there are 2 currents I did not know about. Very few people know them. Did you know there was a East Continental Greenland current going from north to south, meeting another current named the Labrador current, crossing right before Oak Island and Nova Scotia? And particularly that current here is stuck between the Gulf Stream, which goes that direction, and the coast. And by Venturi effect, it accelerates here because it doesn't have any room to go anywhere, so it goes faster. So now wait a second. There are 2 routes to go to the USA or America or North America. The south route, but it would take you forever to reach Nova Scotia. And the north route, which would push you to go get the eastern Greenland current around Iceland and let you push down with nice wind. We can look at the winds again, and we see here the winds. Let's have a look at the winds again in that area. Hey, I got face wind But here, I've got again a corridor of backwind pushing me until here. But here, I only have this section I must cross, and then I get the Labrador current. And here on top, I get the Greenland current. So there is a way. Squeezed here up north. And you bet the people who live in Iceland have known this forever. They've been fishing across Greenland, and they've been realizing their boat was just being pushed south. So all this was known by Iceland, definitely, because that's their local region. Interesting, huh? So now we have, here. Now we have the East Greenland current pushing to the Labrador current, pushing to Nova Scotia. And accelerating, I'll tell you the speed in a second, you'll be amazed. I was amazed. You know what? The East Greenland and the Labrador currents are the strongest currents in the world. They're the fastest current in the world. I read that and I'll show you. So there would be a route crossing north here and getting the Labrador current and back and there. And if I want to do that, I would make a stop over here and I would make a stop over here. That's a big stretch, right? So why not? Well, guess what? That's exactly the journey that's described in the manuscripts. Couple of words about the East Greenland current. Okay, these are the speeds according to what they say, the annual average, but there's an interannual maximum, and these are, I put it in US miles, kilometer per day, huh? We're talking per day, not per hour here. And nautical miles. Since we're talking sailing, I gotta talk nautical miles. Bear in mind, in 10 days, if you're on the East Greenland current across Greenland, you would do in 10 days 160 miles doing nothing, even with front wind. You would still go down 160 miles in 10 days. The second current, the Labrador current, is even stronger. Here they're talking about meter per second, not centimeters. And they're saying that the main current is between 0.3 and 0.5 meters per second, which is enormous. It's 2 miles an hour. And the Flemish Pass, which is right where it gets stuck by the Gulf Stream at the tip of Newfoundland, their recorded speed to 30 meters per second. 30 meters per second, I calculated, it's ridiculous. This is 60 miles an hour. 60 miles an hour current, because it's getting squeezed in that Venturi effect. But I took the conservative measure, just 0.5 meter per second. I should have shown you this first. Is 270 US miles in 10 days. You bet that thing is the super highway, and it turns because the Gulf Stream is trying to push this way. So here, the place they talk, the Flemish Pass at Czech, is right here. That's Flemish Pass. And here, you'd better hang to the edge of your seat because it seems you're getting really pushed to that direction. Interesting. So there's a way north from Europe to reach Canada, and it may be the most efficient way, actually. In the Templar mission to Oak Island, Zena Halpern, relying on the data that was provided in the 1 Year to Remember manuscript, that manuscript that describes a 1 year journey to America in 1106, I think, or even before, by Ralph de Sudley. She got points from the description. She knew towns, and she thought they went that route. And we saw that here you've got the Gulf Stream that's going that direction and that direction, and you get the strong front wind. I don't think they did that. I don't think they took the route that Zena is proposing. I think they took the northern route. Or maybe they didn't go behind, of course. Maybe they made a stop, and Reykjavik capital is right here, and then they went this way. And they made a stop here. They found here settlement, and then they finished to Oak Island. That's my proposal. It makes sense with the current and the winds, doesn't it? Let's carry on. Let's go back to our Rochefouclaud Grail, which still impressed me in what's in the content. Guy 7 La Rochefoucauld. Check the date of birth, 1283. So Guy is very interesting. 1283. When the Templar movement got crushed in 1307, he was 24 years old. 24 years old in the Middle Age, you're already somebody quite old, right? Remember, the life expectancy was around 50 years old at the time. And when you were 12 or 13, you were married with children at 13, 14. No contraception, of course. You would own your land. I mean, adultery. No, adultery is another word. Sorry, it's a poor translation, the wrong translation of French. When you become adult, you would become adult around 13, 12, 14, those ages. So at 24, you've seen the world. Not the world, but you've seen things, right? And I'm just putting this date just on the paper, and maybe we'll talk about it at the end. 1293, he was 10 years old. 10 years old, he could have gone on a trip with other people. Anyways, let's keep in mind that it's interesting because he lived in the era of those intrigues with Philippe le Bel and the arrest of the Templar. He was alive. He fought in the Flanders War later, after the Templars went down, and Philippe le Bel died after being cursed by Jacques de Molay. If you don't know that story, it's an incredible story. Huh? Jacques de Molay cursed 3 people when he got to the burnt onto the bûcher in French, and those 3 people died within a year. Incredible curse. But let's go back to Guy 7 La Rochefoucauld, and let's go back to the manuscript. A little anecdote. Guy, in 1328, so how old was he? 17 and 28. He was 43, so he was already quite aged. And he lived a long time, by the way. Look, he lived 65, 70 years. That's a lot for the time, 65. He had a serious disagreement with the bishop of Angoulême, and he refused to go to the city and carry, according to the old custom, one of the feet of the chair of the prelate, of the bishop, the day of the bishop's enthronement. What a what a bold move! He got excommunicated for that. Would you believe that? You would get excommunicated from the church just because you would refuse to carry the bishop's chair's feet for the day of the enthronement. To me, it means that Guy didn't care much about Catholic Church, did he? He didn't like the Catholic power. He didn't care. It's like me carrying your seat, or maybe he had something with Aiglin, that bishop. But to me, it just means he didn't care much about the church, right? Okay, let's deep dive into the story. I'm promising I'm going to reveal you. You see this picture? You've seen it because you probably looked for the bird. And just to remind anybody who hasn't been here with us before, the bird is here. Language of the bird. Could be that bird everybody describes me, but that bird, the puffin, is yes, it's in Nova Scotia, but it's also in Iceland. It's in Denmark. It's in they got some in Great Britain. It's all in North Atlantic, so it wouldn't mean testimony of only Nova Scotia, the endemic race. It's bird race. It's more common. So I'm not fully satisfied with this explanation. Especially, it's on the bottom right corner. So I'll work more on this. Okay, let's go. When I first saw the picture that you all saw, because I know you all worked on it, looking for the bird. This character here, look at his eyes. He's looking upward. He's looking for us to follow his look at these things at the top here, those arcanes. Why those arcanes? 1, 2, 3, 4 arcanes. And 4 arcanes and different signs here. I still haven't decoded why those signs were different, and you had 3 and 4 and 4 and 3, and the red thing pointing could be the description of a number. I don't know. I don't understand it. But that triggered my curiosity. It's like 4 leaps, one leap after the other. Like if you go somewhere and you stop there, and then you take your journey again and you stop somewhere. That's what I kind of thought. The second thing, and that I discovered early, or I had the intuition early, look at the crowns. Look at the hair, curly. They all got curly hair. I'm not seeing crowns and curly hair. I'm seeing two boats onto the ocean, and the waves is the curly hair. I see two boats on the ocean. Do you see them? Of course. Yeah. This is a boat, and it's I don't know how to describe. If you can't see it, I don't know how to make you see it. But yes, obviously these are two boats going to on an ocean. So that's the second thing that you know, trigger my curiosity. Top of that, the king and the queen, they're both saying bye bye, bye bye. We're leaving. That's the scene, by the way. Two people on the right greeting or saying bye bye to two people on the left who seem to go that direction, looking back and saying goodbye and waving goodbye to the people here. And those three people here are talking about something, but we'll go to that later. That's the scene. Okay. So I'm thinking these are boats onto an ocean. Next thing I saw very early, and I'm like, this is strange. Look at the shoes of those guys. Some of them you see them. The ladies, you don't see them shoes, right? But the guys you do. And that guy in blue, he's got a heck of a shoe. Believe me. He's got a shoe that looks like a compass, doesn't he? With the compass rotule, right? Where it can rotate around. And that's your pointer. Very pointy here. And that's your angle of the second arm of the compass. I already thought it was early something that looked like a compass. So now what we got? We got a compass, we got boats, and we got 4 leaps, maybe. So that was the initial hints I had, and I couldn't understand the checkered floor until somebody made a comment. You see how comments are useful. Please do make comments on what you see or what you feel, because the way he described the comment, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at it again, and then bang, had a flash. I understood. You'll get it in a second. So this painting, miniature, is actually have to be separated in 4 parts, each one describing a stretch of the journey from wherever they started to Oak Island. And we're going to study now, one by one, those pieces. Each one tells a story. Let's start. We're starting here on the right hand side, right? And we see that arm here and that arm, that hand there. And there's something about those hands, and there's something about their positioning. So what I did, and what I propose you to do, I'm going to try to make it live. I don't know if that's going to be very good, but I got the... Yeah. If you look at this, look at Great Britain and Ireland on the left part. You see the inclination, and I thought that was the hands. And when you go over, yeah, it's the hands, and it's the orientation of Great Britain and Ireland. Right? That's what I thought. Okay? So I think that's a big hint on when they started. Okay, so that's one thing. I think I recognize the symbolics of Great Britain and Ireland here. Let's carry on. Here at the bottom, I could see those feet being positioned somewhere on the checkered floor. That's the first thing I saw there. And the image is blurry. I wish I had a very good quality picture, but we don't. That's what we have. And we don't have the 107 miniatures. We only have 20 or something like that. Look at this. This is water. And that's the harbor. Let me remove it. You see the water? This is your water. And now you got no more water. You got your... That's the pier and the harbor. Right? Another indication. So what I think is that the first part of the journey, all this description here, was on land, continental Europe. Something happened, but it's not detailed. We don't know how long, we don't have the feet, but something happened on continental Europe. And then the journey starts on water. Let's carry on. I'm going to have to make a couple of hypotheses, and we'll see if they're right or wrong in the process. The hypothesis is that on that painting, and when you look at the character, the convention they used is, at first, it changed later, but at first, the left hand, when somebody raises a left hand, it means a stop in the journey, a stopover for logistics and food and rest or whatever. The right hand of those character and the arm give us the bearing of the stretch of the journey. And the checker floor is the duration in days indicated by the feet pointing on a certain square until the next feet. Here would be a 2-day journey. Right? That's my hypothesis, and we see if it works. Hypothesis number 2. Okay, I've got maybe by this, I got my bearing. So I start here, I know which direction I'm gonna go. I got my bearing. But for how long? For how long I need this distance, or I need the speed multiplied by the time. And the time maybe I've got in the checker floor, the duration. So all I need now is the speed. The question is, how fast were the boats at the time? What's the average speed the boats would be considering for that journey would do? I've been talking with Michael about this 2 days ago, 5 knots is acceptable. Nowadays ship, average, modern sailed 45 feet leisure boats would do an average of 7 feet if you're good with good winds. But here we have to consider the possibility of the current helping. So not only the winds, and they're favorable on the route we're proposing, but also the current that's going to help. So we think 5 nautical miles is a good assumption. What type of ship? What type of ship was available in 1250, 1290, 13 to cross the Atlantic? The keg or cogan is a round and decked ship. Round and decked, several floors, several decks. Easy to handle, fast. The largest transported, hang on to the edge of the seat, 500 metric tons of good, which is about 500 US tons of good. Boat invented around 1200, so it qualifies. Not the largest one, but the regular series one, if we can talk about series, could transport 237 tons of wheat. Do you understand that these were workhorses, and if you could make one of them cross the Atlantic to Oak Island, the question about the material is dealt with. You can carry anything you want in those boats, up to 230 tons. And on 1 year to remember is specified that it's not one single boat that went there. They went at 6 boats, 140 people in the 1 year to remember story. Of course, here, if you're going to set up Oak Island, you're going to go with, 4, 5, 6 boats, maybe 200 people, logistics, but you get plenty of carriage capacity, 230 tons per boat. A keg of 75 lasts, so a bit less, probably 180 tons, is only 30 meters long, so that's 90 feet, and 21 feet wide, and a draft of 22, 23 feet draft. It's got a big draft. Okay, so if you ever in this show encounter a ship that is 29 meter long, about 100 feet long by 30 feet wide, and the ratio of length to width is 1/3, which characterize the only boat at the time that could go on open oceans. I checked. It's peculiar. Those boats, the early ones, were a ratio of 1/3 length to width, which is about what we have here. That's a keg from the days. Yeah. So that's about the construction. Square sail, so not really capable of going against the wind. Could have rows, of course. But here is interesting. They reconstructed one based on what they found. And the boat maneuvered, amazingly, with either tailwind and crosswind, no front wind. And it reached speeds in excess of 9 knots. 9 knots is 10 miles an hour, 10 US miles an hour. That's a lot. That's fast for such a big whale-shaped boat. Oh, by the way, it's shaped like this. That's a keg. So maybe that's what we'll find in the swamp. One of the kage of the campaign that they left behind for some reason. We could find La Hampe is at the top of a mast of one of those also. So forget about galleons. Galleons came way later. These were the first spaceships, because you were really going into space at the time when you're crossing the Atlantic, unknown land. And would I do it in such a boat? It looks quite reliable, you know. It looks quite strongly built. But I wouldn't take a storm with that, jeez. So these are the kage, and these are my hypotheses, okay? 5 nautical miles per hour. 120 miles per day in 24 hours. Okay? And let's remember, left hand, the stops. Right hand, the bearings. Checkered floor, the duration. Let's try on this one. The first stretch. So here with the arrow, I'm showing the hand. Right hand, the bearing. The bearing was this one. So if I take a compass, and that's the beauty of PowerPoint. In PowerPoint, you take a line, you move it, it keeps the same angle. It's parallel, no problem. I put it in the center of my compass and I read. About 330. Let's take 330 for now. I don't think the precision is there in the paintings, of course. And I'm convinced the manuscript is not a way to find what's under Rock Island. It's a testimony. It's a storytelling after. It's the adventures of what happened. But it's not meant to give you the hints to refine that treasure. It's just a testimony. I think that's what I believe. So here we're with a bearing of 330. And now let's look at the checkerboard, okay? Here, they only made one step. There's only one step, this square to that square. Only one step. 1 day of travel in that direction. You'll notice the ribbon here, I don't know what it's for yet. And now that I just drew it and I saw this shape, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's something hint in that Z shape, but that's for later. I don't know, I'm just playing with it now. So I've got my bearing 330, and now duration 1 square equals 1 day, 5 knots average, 120 nautical miles max. You know, they were not going to do half square or 1/10 of a square. We're not talking about precision, we're talking about order of magnitude. So what we say here is that it took them 1 day, not 24 hours, maybe 16, maybe 12 hours in that bearing. What do we have? And that's Ireland and Scotland. What do we have here that takes 1 day with that bearing? That's the north coast of France. And if you take that bearing, 334 instead of 330, you'll forgive me, for 74 nautical miles. I'm all going to talk nautical miles from now on, okay? 74 nautical miles. You're allowed to 120, according to the checkerboard. That works. I have other candidates possible for this first stretch because I haven't found the exact explanation of where they were starting from. They could be starting from Dunkirk. It could work from Denmark. It could work from Denmark. And Denmark, they knew about those ships. I just talked. The boats were from Vikings, Denmark. And there's an island behind Denmark that's called Holborn, which is very, very strange. And my second hypothesis is they started from Holborn 1 day, but the angle is kind of wrong, means they would have walked on Earth. The second is they started, the third hypothesis, maybe they started from England and the first stretch is to Ireland. Could be. But that's just because I can't locate the initial step in this. But maybe they stopped in Ireland and not stopped in England. It's unclear. This, according to the text with the picture, is a letter. It's about a letter that the king's carrying or something. And if we could find exact where this bird come from, but not Nova Scotia. We're on the right-hand side of the picture. We're on the east part of the journey at the beginning. So it must be a European or, I don't know, near Jerusalem or something about a local continental Europe bird showing that's the starting point, I guess. So this one, and why Dunwich? Dunwich is talked about and depicted in The Year to Remember. That's the passage. We sailed from Spring to from Longo. We made a landfall at Dunwich, England, to receive funds and the bishop's blessing. And that was 100 years, if it's true, the year to remember, 100 years before that journey happened, I think, 80 years. So Dunwich may be a Templar place, could be a, you know, secret society people place, connection place, network. But why not? Because the angle corresponds with Dunkirk. But I can't certify it because of the starting point. But let's see the next one. The next stretch. So here you go. The right arm gives the bearing. So from England or Scotland, because we know Scotland and Templars got a lot of synergies, and especially, I mean, not especially, but including pre-1300, of course. And that's a bearing of 305 now. And the number of square, we're going to count them together. So we were here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 days. Your autonomy, if we can talk like this, your maximum range at 5 knots, 5 nautical miles an hour, your maximum range on 9 days is 1,800 nautical miles. 1,800. Second stop, Iceland. 305 bearing. And I got a 1,040. I'm using 640 straight line. But let's remember what we learned earlier. We have the Gulf Stream current going that direction, and we got winds going that direction. So the journey cannot be anything but this. You're going to be drifted away. And maybe there was a stop at the Faroe Islands, because the puffin is very famous, the bird, in the Faroe Island. But I'm not sure, because that would come later. You know, the puffin is on the very bottom right corner, so symbolically at the beginning of the journey. But right, that's the stop to Iceland. It's the right bearing. Interesting, huh? And when I did other simulation, this is Holborn Island on the very right hand side. That's the Templar Island of Denmark. And the hand, which is Great Britain, could be Denmark. You know, they all stand out. And if I take the same bearing on the same a bit longer distance, parallel, right? I also end up in Iceland from this point. It's just I end up here, and then I got to find Reykjavik by sailing a bit more. So both are still possible, and I can't determine whether the departure point was Holborn or if it was in Great Britain, in Scotland especially. Or maybe in Ireland. But Ireland, the problem is, if you start from Ireland, I tried many simulation, you're going to miss Iceland. So either it's just the bearing 305 from the drawing is not that accurate, and maybe they did something like this, and they given us a general bearing. I'm not sure. But they went that direction, and they went to Iceland. So that's our journey so far. And now I'm in Iceland. And I want to go, and let's remember, I'm in Iceland. I've got the Greenland current this direction. I got the Labrador current doing like this with a big accelerator here. And the Labrador actually is going like this, current. And I've got winds going this direction. And here they are going that direction. But they still, if I travel like this with my boat, they're still on the side. I still move on. But still, it's the current that's going to help me, of course. So let's see the next stretch. The next stretch of the picture. Interesting. So the right arm is the bearing, and now we're on the bearing of, we're going south now, we're going down. 225 is the bearing, 225. Just parallel lines on the compass, 225. And the duration is big. I counted 16 squares. That's 1920 nautical miles. That's 16 days in the sea. Max, of course. Oh, not max, that's what they did according to this record. They went 60 days with food, logistics, several boats. I mean, it's totally possible. Huh? 16 days on your own on a boat is for logistics and food and water. It's no big deal. You can, totally. Plus, they had the Greenland coast next door. They could have stopped if necessary for water, I guess. Melting snow. They would have been sick. 1920 nautical miles. Big. And by the way, the little dog here in white, all white, That's Greenland. We'll see that in a second. Third stop, Terre-Neuve, Newfoundland, Conception Bay. Look at that. The current is there, right? That's my current line. That's why I took it right there. And the bearing, 225. 225 is that bearing. Absolutely. Google Earth. And how long? 1325 nautical miles. How much was I allowed? 1920. And I got life insurance. My insurance is called the Current. Even if there's no wind or front wind, I put the sail down. I'm still going quite fast. Especially, they probably did something like this, probably, and then down and here. And they made a stop here or there. And they found settlements here, settlements from the old days. So they probably made a stop over because you needed to, after 90 days, 16 days on sea, you want to break if there's Earth and if there's people living there. Yes, you do. So definitely a stop there. What a trip, huh? The angles are correct according to the situation of the, geographic and currents and winds. That's amazing. Let's carry on our journey. He had the compass there. Let's carry on our journey. So the next one, the bearing, and here notice on the last stretch everything's mixed up. It's not the right arm anymore. His right arm is up here. He's got two arms. The story, the way to understand the story changes now. It's the left arm and the angle is 245. You start to understand how it works. And the number of days, there's a foot there, I think here. I think that's to go around Newfoundland and then another stretch for a total of 4 days of sea. So 480 nautical miles max on a 5 knots an hour base. 480 at 245. And there's no stop. There's no hand here to stop you. You don't stop. You don't make a landfall. Let's see what it gives. So 245, 480. 245, right? That's the one. 417. But remember, we had a killer current there. Yes, we're going faster than 5 knots on that area. That's where the current is strongest ever. So very interesting. Very interesting. It works. The bearing is right. You're going to New Scotland. This is Nouvelle-Écosse in French is New Scotland, and Mahone Bay is right here. And that's the right distance, and it's the right bearing. I'm so thrilled, and I'm so kind of proud to show you this, and I'm so happy that you guys seeing this more and more. If you're like me, it's like you can doubt about those manuscripts, of course. You can doubt that we're making up those findings, but there's too many. There's too many of them. There's too many coincidences. It's unbelievable. Let's move on. The last bit, this one took me 2 weeks to figure out. It took me forever to understand what they were talking about and why they bloody changed the symbols. That is, it was easy. Right arm was the direction, left arm was the stopover, and the checkerboard give me the distance. All that was easy. They changed the code here. It's a different way of doing it. Because it's the landing, guys. It's the atterrissage. It is the landing. You're in the sea and you're entering Mahone Bay. I was reading by pure coincidence 3 days ago, and I can't put my hands on it, a website of somebody who lives in Mahone Bay, and he was explaining his fishing parties. And he was explaining that people locally know there's a legend that you can get from Chester to the ocean without hitting one of the 360 islands. There's a bearing that allows you to go from deep in the back of Chester Bay, the Chester City, all the way to the ocean. There's a single bearing that allows you to do that, and you will not hit any of the islands in the bay, and gosh knows there's a lot, the 340. That's what they're saying here in this picture. Look. First of all, I had a problem with this. You see that? There's a triangle, and then there's a circle, and I couldn't figure out. But then they made that little bar here. You see that little bar here? So it's like you've got a compass, 360 degrees, and they're showing you that direction. Took me a long time to understand it. But if I do that, and I report this on the compass, I find the bearing 335. Okay. And the reverse bearing is 155. That's the complementary, 180 apart. Okay. And then I saw them. Look at their hands. 1 finger, 5 finger, 5 finger. The 155 was here again. So it seems like they're telling you, after your bloody 30-day journey out of the ocean, you're going alongside the coast of Nova Scotia. Check, bear in mind, keep in mind that you have to work with a bearing of 155 at one point in time to do your landing. And what I did is I took this reference line and I brought it to the last point I stopped. Here. And you'll see that it hits right this shape here, on which we'll talk again soon. And look at those guys. Those guys are looking at, he's looking at this point. He's looking at this point. He's looking at the hands. Right? That's what I think they want you to do. So after my journey alongside the Nova Scotia coast in red at 245 degrees, I'm looking, of course I'd be cruising shore, closer to the shore, and I'm looking in that direction at 155 degrees. The Chester Bay, Mahone Bay, is about 20 US miles long, meaning that on a clear day, if you're here, you can see the bottom of the bay. Right? Imagine those guys wouldn't go to Oak Island every year, right? It's like generation after generation. Maybe last time people from Western world went in there was 80 years ago with Ralph de Sudley, and nobody would come after that. It was unknown. So they had to find a way, when they were going along the Nova Scotia Bay, to spot, oh, that's where I got to go, and that's where I got to make my turn right. Why not here? Why not there? Why not here? Well, the maps were not that established back in... Listen to that one. The maps were not of Nova Scotia were not well established in 1290, since it was not even supposed to be discovered. Jesus. Well, guess what? That line is the line the blogger was talking about, 155 degree. That's the line that allows you to go from the deepest of Chester Bay out of the ocean without meeting one island. And it's a 155 degree line. You can't do that with any other. I checked. 156 still works. 154 doesn't work anymore. And that's inside the bay. That line, the same line, huh? It tangents this island, and it tangents our good Frog Island. So if you're out in the sea with good visibility, and you're taking a longue vue in French, how do you call that? A device that allows you to see longer than you know, a kind of a magnifier. I can't find the word in English. You would see at 155 the tip of this island, and the end of the bay, and then you would turn right, because it's the only angle that allows you to do that tangents those islands. And we know those guys love the tangents, huh? Look how close it gets, the 155. 155.00. I try to be super precise with it. At 155.00, you tangent Refuse Island, and I'm yet to find a drawing hidden in the miniatures of that island. It must be indicated somewhere as a reference point. And you find our good old Frog Island and the Money Pit. And then you could think, why don't they directly to the Money Pit? Well, you can't. You see that this island blocks. You can't. You would hit an island. And if you are going like 3 degrees right, you would hit this island. So really, it's only the 155 is the only one that allows you to go all the way down to Chester Basin. Crazy, huh? And that's a zoom on the Frog Island. And so you would go by boat this direction. And what do they tell you on Zina Halpern's map? That's the landing. That's why the landing is there. Because you're coming straight from the ocean. And your line you're following according to your instructions is the 155 degree line. And you would just pass by and anchor your ship behind Frog Island. And then this is a very short distance you would do with barks or with smaller. And they said, don't go in there. That's the sandbar. Yeah, don't go in there. By the way, the ocean is here. So the waves come in that direction. So on top of that, Frog Island acts like an arbor. It's a perfect protected cove here. Interesting. And why don't you go anchor at Oak Island directly? Why do you have to anchor somewhere else? Because that's the underground elevation around Oak Island. And all the bay here is very shallow. 10 feet, 9 feet, 3 feet. Very shallow. And you can see, of course, with the tides that this gravel bar disappears and reappears according to the pictures we have, according to the tide. So now I've got my kage, my 250 tons, full of material, full of people, precious thing, landing there. I'm the captain. I want to be super cautious. I've got 12 to 15 feet draft underneath my boat. I'm not going to hang in there. I'm not going to jeopardize my boat, which is my only way I'm going to go home. I'm not going to go in there either. 21 feet? I'm not risking it. We learn in sailing school, you got to take twice as your draft as a vertical for safety. They may taken 3 times. And Oak Island, yeah, 13. You can't land your boat. You can't. Too dangerous. That's why they build those jetties, right? Maybe here, because you want to reach to that point, 44 feet. But above anything, that's why your atterrissage and the anchor of your ships are in Frog Island. Because here, all the way, you're at minimum 45, 32 feet. You're super safe with your big boats. And you notice the floor elevation, very steep. Here, very long. I would put my ship here, and then I've got bloody 1,000 feet to get to my ship. Here, I can put the ship very close. Very close. That's probably why they would anchor their fleet. We're talking about a fleet now. A fleet of ship coming from Europe after how many days? 30 days? 30 days at sea. The journey was like 3 times like this because logistics, boat repair at each stop, resting, wounded people to deal, it was roughly 35 days at sea, 30 days at sea, but it's probably a 3 or 4 month journey. And maybe that's what's at the top, those 4 boxes I was showing on top of the arcade, and I didn't understand why some in that direction. Maybe that's the month of the year and how long they stay at each stop, but I haven't decoded yet. It makes sense. The 155 line brings you to your atterrissage, and because you don't have a chart, nobody lives there, you've never been there before yourself, you trust whoever told you need to make your landing here and not near the island. Don't go there, don't, because it's too shallow for your big boats. Makes sense. And because your super highway 155 line brings you there, so that's the natural way to go. And that's the okay, so that's the shape of Chester Basin. And you would really hit the further point out with the 150 line without touching any island. And look at the shape of that thing, right? Look at the shape here of that thing in black, right? You got a river here on the left. It would be here. And you've got that piece of island here. That would be this thing here. Let me redraw it. Okay, and then you've got the bay itself, which looks like, and that's what they're looking at. They're all looking at this point, right? So I don't know. This is a bit far stretch, but I believe it is. I believe they're showing you 155 from this point, and that's how I drew it. I took the further point out. I took 155, and I realized it was not hitting any island. Of course I did, because when I drew it on Google Earth, I didn't know where to start from in the ocean for my 155. And the best was to take the further point out in the basin, try the 155, and it worked beautifully and automatically registered as the tangent of the 2 islands. Incredible. So that's the journey they did. Again, could be from here, then there, and there. And I don't believe the Irish option. I could believe this one from Scotland here, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If it's that stretch or that stretch. What's very interesting is then the rest matches, and there's a natural reason, those currents, to go that way, to use that direction. And people from Denmark, Vikings, yes, they would populate all that area, so they would know those currents. And we know the Templars were a friend with them. After your 19-day journey, you would make a rest somewhere when you hit those lands, definitely hit the coast. You would rest, fix your ships, heal your wounded, and then you would know, maybe people here could talk about what's happening there, give you instruction because they knew the area, and there you go for your last bit. You would constantly have a look on the right hand side with a 155-degree approach, and bang, at one point in time you would see 2 islands to which you would tangent, and that was your line, and you would reach Frog Island. Wow. I'm so impressed of what they did in 1290. They had compass, but they didn't have maps and charts. Poor guys. They had killer ships for 50 years, those huge Kage. They had faith. They were on a mission. They were soldiers of maybe the Christ, but they were soldiers. Nothing could stop them. And it's such an incredible story. Somebody, I believe, now it's my hypothesis, I believe one of the person who was in that group of maybe 250, 300 people got back to France and wanted it to be recorded but not described. And that person was Guy Rochefouclaud 7. I think he was part of the trip when he was 10 years old with a relative. He was noble. He was going to be a very full of influence person in France. He fought with the king later. And yeah, I buy it. I buy that story. Last thing, and this is just charming. I love it. I think it's so cute. After all we've seen, right? And those people doing those miniatures, struggling, painting, very talented group of people. I need to find out more about who drew all those pictures. I think here they made a very, very sweet symbol of Nova Scotia. It took me a while because here there's no geometric form, there's nothing hidden. It's very straightforward, but it's so cute when you understand what I think it is. Look at the map of Nova Scotia. All right. Do you see Nova Scotia as something here being attached to something bigger here, and maybe with a hat? Nova Scotia, the mainland continent of Canada. Okay, maybe I'm pushing it, but what I did is I used my pen. Oops, sorry. I need to change the... I used my pen. Let me close this. And what I did with the pen before, I did the contour of that part, and then I reapplied here, and it's cute. You see the shoulder, you see the line at the back here. I think the hat is the island. Again, didn't have Google Earth, those guys. They had whatever was available in 1290 about those places. But I think the idea of Nova Scotia being the baby of Canada that is being cherished, you see this full of joy and serenity in that picture. I think that's another symbol, or, you know, triggering our imagination. And I love it. I think it's so cute. Yeah, the baby is there. It's Nova Scotia. Mahone Bay. That was it for today. Thank you very much. I don't know how you feel about those videos. I am so perplexed, so puzzled. Can it be true? I mean, I found this by chance, the Rochefouclaud Grail, just because of the name, Rochefouclaud. What did it have to do with the Grail? And the picture after picture reveals, would you believe, would you imagine yourself when you were looking for the bird, that there was so many things hidden in there, a full story of 30 days of sea travel, seafaring. There must be something else. Yes, I agree with everybody who made those comments that something with their robes, with their you know, their blankets, the folds. There's something else there. I don't know yet. Haven't explained. But you see the coding method of the language of the bird. It's there in front of your eyes. People, this picture has been on the internet when the Rochefouclaud Grail manuscripts were sold. Nobody said, "Hey, wait a second! I see here a trip to America from from Europe." But we know better. We know because we know the vault theory. We know the context. We know what we're kind of looking for, and that's where it becomes dangerous, because you may then find what you're looking for even though it's not there. But I don't think it's the case. I think that's exactly what it is, the description of their journey to Oak Island. And it's a mind-blasting, I don't dare saying historical finding. I'm not a historian, bloody hell, I'm an engineer, and I'm passionate, but I think that's exactly what it is. And the 155 with the hands, so classic. And the checkered floor, what is it used for? To count number of days. And you can see the sea here. Again, the whole the way, all the way, we have the sea at the bottom and the pointing. I don't know. I think I'm right. You guys have fun. You take care. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to subscribe if you may. That will help those videos being broadcasted further in America. Since I'm European, I don't get lots of exposure. And be safe in those troubled time. Being a European, I'm allowed to say that. Everybody, lots of love. Bye bye.